Right. Now to presidential elections that you've mentioned quite a bit there, Gab. Why does that make any real difference to Barcelona unless the new president's got a time machine and can bring back Xavi and Iniesta at their best and Barcelona their pomp back in 2010? Because surely you've still got the same restrictions around you.
The restrictions will still be there, but the new president will, of course, decide who the new manager is and who the new director of football is. And I think taking this for granted that on Monday, Eric Abidal and probably the chief executive Oscar Grau as well, that these guys are going to depart the club. Setien, we know, is almost certainly go as well. So I think that's something that that is going to matter to Messi, because it's going to determine the sort of people he's going to work with every day and who his boss is. Obviously, the restrictions are still going to be there. Just as a reminder, Barcelona have the highest wage bill in the world. Wow. They're stuck with a lot of older players who've got very limited room to maneuver, which is why, for example, we saw things like the Artur for Pjanic swap deal. They're going to need somebody coming in who can be creative like that, who can shift players, and who can make it work. So I think it's going to be critical that whoever comes in is somebody who has the confidence of Messi. And also of some of the older players if they're still around.
But isn't that dangerous in itself, Gab? Like, if you want the confidence of Busquets and Piqué, who I assume are the veterans that we're talking about, they're not up to the task anymore, so why would you listen to them?
Well, I think you listen to Gerard Piqué because he's a football man, and I think he's a future president of Barcelona. He may not be as great as he was on the pitch, but you still listen to him because he's somebody who cares about the club. And who has the club's best interest at heart. They need people who are very, very straight about the club's current situation. Need to be very, very straight about the different scandals that have enveloped the clubs in recent years. They need to be very straight about some of these decisions, some of these signings that were made. And look, they need to tell the fans this is a tough period. Massive mistakes were made, but we have new leadership and we're going forward along this way. And I'll tell you what, if they bring in, Xavi, it's not clear whether he wants to come in with Bartomeu or whatever. But if you bring in a Xavi, you buy yourself time. You bring in somebody who, can say, all right, this is a project, and it's going to be 2-3 years. If you go for a more tried and tested coach, you're going to have less time to do that.
You mentioned tried and tested coach. Sid Lowe writing about the fact that Pochettino is the #1 target for Barcelona, Gab. How likely is it that we could see him come in to take over from Setien?
Well, it's funny, Pochettino, obviously a former Espanyol coach and strong ties to the club. In some ways, you don't think it matters, although I think, and I could be wrong here, I think he said in the past that, I could never go to Barcelona, whether it was a big joke or not. I don't know. I think obviously Pochettino would be, I think, a tremendous upgrade over, not just over Setien, but over Valverde. As well. I think we've seen Thierry Henry linked too, which I think would be a bit of a curious choice. Ronald Koeman as well. But I think the thing with Pochettino is, Pochettino has a reputation as a building coach, as a charismatic coach, and also as a players coach. So those are all three things that you would need to have in place. But it really doesn't matter who the coach is unless you sort out what's happened above. This absolute mess of contracts and spending and financial commitments that were made above the coach's head, because otherwise, you're sending him in with both hands tied behind his back.
We saw actually Pochettino last month address the quotes that he made when he was in charge of Espanyol, where he said that he would never coach at Barcelona, saying, well, that was just something I said in the time. Obviously, now, with hindsight, maybe it wasn't the right thing to say. Obviously, Stevie, he doesn't want to slam that door to one of the biggest clubs in the world, but it's a big club in a mess. Can Pochettino sort out that mess? Or, as Gab said, is his hands completely tied about what's going on above him?
Well, Spurs, I wouldn't say Spurs were in a complete mess when he got there, but they were kind of drifting. And he got them on a path and with some clever buys as well, got them up challenging for league titles and Champions League. I would suggest, though, that, we were talking about Piqué and Busquets. Yeah, maybe the time's up on the field, but I think if I'm the manager coming in, whether it's Pochettino or anybody else, I think it's important that you keep these guys around because they know what the real culture of Barcelona is. And when Barcelona as a team needs so many changes, you need people there that can very quickly get probably younger players and certainly any player up to speed with what's expected, how we handle ourselves. This is the Barcelona way. So you can't just throw everybody out that's done. And there are 3 or 4 that are done, in my opinion, but you can't discard them. You keep them around, whether it's as an assistant or whether you have them in the reserves and they're still in the building. I think whoever comes in has to be very smart the way they go about this.
And Dan, if I can just add, like, for all the doom and gloom and disaster, whoever comes in, and yeah, I agree there is a big rebuilding job and they are hamstrung and whatever else, but you're also going to be starting out with arguably the best goalkeeper in the world, or certainly one of the top 2 or 3, arguably one of the best central midfielders, passing central midfielders in the world in Frankie de Jong, arguably the best teenage player in the world or close to it in Ansu Fati, and probably or arguably the best player in the world in Lionel Messi. So, when you talk about sort of a starting point, that's not a bad starting point. You're not starting from absolute scratch. You just have to figure out the pieces that are going to fit in around them.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.